As delightful as it is to spend afternoons in the garden, growing your own food is a very labour and time intensive task, and if you're trying to fit it in around a full-time job, it can become essential to invest in quality equipment so that you don't exhaust yourself and to give yourself some time to relax and recharge after a long day. So in this video, I'll go through the list of equipment that I use that I think are absolutely essential for the entry-level, production-focused or comfort-seeking gardener. And I'll show you both the high quality and budget options available. But what's the most essential tool in your garden? Let me know in the comments below, and later in the video I'll let you know which of my tools makes planting out an absolute dream. One of the first tools you should get your hands on is a trowel. This is the ideal tool for small amounts of digging, planting plants and transferring compost into pots. You'll find ones like this in cheap starter kits, however the finish is poor and it quickly scratched and started to rust, so I only use this for cleaning the chicken coop. But if you're just starting out, then this one does the job just fine. However, recently I treated myself to this 3-in-1 tool, the Capability Trowel. It has an anti-rusting stainless steel finish, an engraved depth gauge up the front, a serrated edge along the side for cutting into roots, and it also has a flat edge on the top, so it doubles up as a hammer. Given the wide capabilities of this trowel, I bring it with me whenever I go outdoors, just in case I see something that needs attending to. At some point, you're going to need something to cut through stems and branches. For small tender plants, a pair of scissors is the obvious budget and convenient option, but as you grow more and more food, and as the stems become chunkier and chunkier, investing in a pair of secateurs or pruners becomes a good option. For anything far away, high up, or really thick, you're going to need a pair of telescopic loppers to get the leverage required to cut through the stem. These are also good for making the occasional cut to something woody, like a bush or a tree. Weeds are an inevitability in gardening, and while I try to encourage some weeds, others create too big a taproot, or are simply pain-inducing and need to be removed. When seedlings start their life on their garden bed, they begin life tiny, weak and fragile, and something like a hoe or a claw cultivator is perfect for disturbing the soil and removing weeds. This claw cultivator came in a starter kit, but my go-to weed removing equipment is this hoe, which I actually misuse to also cut through stems and dig up taproots of things like dandelions or other weeds that I missed earlier in the season. If you're planting plants and trying to do as much no-dig as possible, then the dibber cannot be beaten. Simply press it down into the soil and it makes a hole with minimal impact to the surrounding area. Wiggle it around and increase the size of the hole as desired, and use the measurements up the side to get the perfect hole each time. I think this is the most underrated tool in the garden, and it is my absolute favourite as it makes planting out an absolute breeze. There's no budget option here. A dibber is a dibber, and as far as I'm concerned, the only variables at play are the materials used to make it. For those with any lawn area, you're going to want a lawnmower. Now the budget option here is this push mower powered entirely by you. These are cheap, quiet and actually really great for covering small garden spaces or in urban areas. However, when I moved to this house, the grass was very unruly, it hadn't been touched for several months and it actually damaged the push mower. So I upgraded to this battery powered one. It takes multiple charges to do my garden, but having something cordless is always worth it, and realistically there's only so much time I want to spend mowing in one session. Now if you're growing serious quantities of food, then a watering can just won't cut it. You'll spend more time walking to and from the kitchen than actually growing food. So upgrading to a hose with your choice of sprinkler is a must. Although it can be inefficient to water this way, and soaking the leaves of plants in water isn't necessarily good for them, particularly for tomatoes. So last year I invested in some drip hoses which you bury under the ground to water the roots rather than the leaves. And I used an automatic timer to ensure the watering was consistent and that the soil stayed moist. Yes, you heard me right, you can entirely automate your watering. So if you've got some cash to play with, I recommend upgrading your watering system. When I was a child, I had a rugby accident and my knee has never been the same. But since then, I aged, and the rest of my body decides to complain whenever I use it. So using something like a kneeler or kneeling pads to put less pressure on your knees and hips is a must for me, but anyone who at all gardens seriously should consider it. Even just reluctance to get my trousers wet when I'll be bending over and lifting, when really that job should have been done kneeling down. So using a kneeler protects my body and my clothes and makes the whole experience much more enjoyable and sustainable for the long term. And not to keep bringing up my age, but if you've got a slightly thinner area of hair on top, then a hat is definitely a good idea. I use this one that I bought specifically for walking over the Brooklyn Bridge on a 40°C day, but you can use anything at all. It could be something novelty, or even something that makes you feel that little bit more like Monty Don. Hello. Well friends, that's my list of essential gardening items. If it helped you out, do press the like button and help this video spread to more people. And check out this video here, which is a review of this plastic greenhouse, which although not essential, does mean that I have a space to cook dinner at night time and gives more light to these guys during the daytime. Otherwise, as always, happy gardening.